Let's start with a question, a puzzle really, that cuts right to the heart of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. What if the savior, one of these faiths, is waiting for, is the exact same person the other two are expecting as their ultimate enemy?
Today, we're diving into a really fascinating hypothesis about the end times. It's an idea that suggests a theological rift so deep, it could totally challenge how these three major faiths relate to each other at their very core. Okay, so to really get our heads around this radical idea, we first have to talk about the common ground. Because while these faiths share a family tree, you could say, their visions for the final chapter of history, well, they go in completely different directions. Now, the big word for all of this is eschatology. It sounds complicated, but it's really just the part of theology that deals with the end times. You know, how a religion sees the climax of history, the final judgment, the whole shebang.
And all three religions trace their story back to Abraham. They honor prophets like Moses, so they have this huge shared story of how things began. But when it comes to the end of that story, their prophetic roadmaps start to look very, very different. All right, so who are the main characters in these end times dramas? Let's map them out so we can see exactly where they line up and, more importantly, where they clash.
So this chart here, this is basically our roadmap for this whole thing. You can see the symbols for each faith on the left, and it traces their expected sequence of events leading into what they call the end times.
Let's boil it down to the absolute essentials. Judaism is waiting for a figure called the Messiah, who is a force for good. But Christianity and Islam, they're both expecting a kind of two-act finale. First, this great deceiver shows up, the Antichrist or the Dajjal, and then Jesus returns to defeat him.
And right away, you see a really crucial overlap. Just in their basic structure, Christianity and Islam are looking for the same pattern. A great evil appears, and then Jesus returns as the hero. This alignment is our baseline. Remember that. So with that baseline in place, we get to the core idea of this entire explainer. And this is where things get really wild.
There it is. That's the question that changes everything. What if the figure that two of the world's biggest religions see as the absolute embodiment of evil is the exact same figure the third is praying for as their divine salvation?
And look, this isn't just some random theory we're pulling out of thin air. This premise comes directly from our source text, Antichrist und Dajjal, which puts this exact scenario on the table for us to analyze. It basically says, for this thought experiment, let's assume Judaism's Messiah is the Antichrist/Dajjal figure. So the first step in this idea is you have to merge the two bad guys. The Christian Antichrist and the Islamic Dajjal are treated as one and the same, a single, unified, ultimate enemy for two of the world's largest religions. Okay, so if we accept that premise, what's the first major thing that happens? Well, it creates an unbelievably strong, almost perfect theological alliance.
No, really, think about it for a second. All of a sudden, Christianity and Islam share the exact same axis of good and evil for the end times. They have the same hero, Jesus, and the exact same villain, this combined Antichrist/Dajjal. That creates a perfect consensus on who to root for and who to fight against.
And we're not talking about some minor agreement here. According to the source, this kind of alignment would forge a powerful theological bond between the two faiths. It would unite them on their most fundamental expectations for the entire future of humanity.
But, and this is a huge but, as this idea brings two faiths closer together, it creates a monumental, unbridgeable chasm with the third. This chart just lays out the collision perfectly. For Christianity and Islam, Jesus is the good guy, the Antichrist/Dajjal is the bad guy. Simple enough. But under this hypothesis, Judaism's awaited savior is that same Antichrist/Dajjal figure. It's a complete 180-degree moral reversal. So this isn't just a simple disagreement. The source calls it an absolute moral and identitarian collision. I mean, what two faiths see as the greatest possible threat, the third sees as its ultimate salvation. That means they would be working toward diametrically opposite goals when everything is on the line. The implication here is just staggering. That shared foundation, right? That common history going all the way back to Adam, Noah, Abraham, it could be completely wiped out. If your final destinations are polar opposites, how much does it really matter that you started the journey together? And that leaves us with one last, pretty challenging question. If their beginnings are shared, but their ultimate goals put them in direct opposition to each other, What does that Abrahamic label truly mean for the future? It's a profound thought to end on.